President Biden heading to the campaign trail today after being fired up during Thursday night's State of the Union. He took aim at Republicans and President Trump throughout the entire speech, although he never mentioned his Republican presidential challenger by name. He was heckled by members of Congress, called out by his own party, and was the target of eye rolls by the House Speaker many times. Just take a look at some of these headlines. Biden chooses a hammer over an olive branch. Biden delivers feisty State of the Union address, offering a choice of revenge versus decency. And Biden goes after Trump in strikingly political State of the Union address. So let's go right to Tom Dempsey on Capitol Hill. Tom, good morning. So what should we think of last night's State of the Union as the official start of President Biden's pivot to the general election?
Yeah, that was the main goal of the State of the Union speech. Good morning, Henna. It was to show that he's ready for this second term possibly coming up in November. But look, he's going to be on the campaign trail today in Philadelphia. And he plans to bring that message from the State of the Union address that America is strong and getting stronger. The State of the Union address lasted 1 hour and 7 minutes total, and it hit on the usual when President Biden hit on his economic accomplishments during his first term, highlighting his efforts to address the economy, investing in manufacturing and technology to fight shrinkflation and push to eliminate billions of dollars in junk fees for Americans. The president called on Congress as well to support Ukraine and called for more aid to get to Gaza. The president also addressed border security head on, calling on Congress to pass his plan for billions of dollars to secure the southern border. The president even went off script at times, bringing up the recent death of Laken Riley, the Georgia nursing student killed by an illegal immigrant. The president addressing her death while holding a pin given to him by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Laken Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself.
Now, with election season, of course, heating up right now, President Biden did not refer to former President Donald Trump by name, only as, quote, my predecessor, using his age to paint a stark contrast between the two.
My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution.
Now, during the State of the Union, the former president posted over 50 times on Truth Social criticizing it and writing, quote, that may be the angriest, least compassionate, and worst State of the Union speech ever made. It was an embarrassment to our country. Also worth noting that there was a pro-Gaza and an anti-Middle East war protest that happened in D.C. last night, a very large one, and it led to the presidential motorcade needing to take a different route to get to the Capitol.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.